Good morning. Let's discuss a few other things surrounding the investigation into the missing child, CLEO SMITH. We can look at some of the things that will be helping the investigation. And I just want to talk about one part of the investigation relating to the parents and some of the testimony that they give and why that might be. If you know anything, if you know anybody who's been in the area, if it wasn't you that was there, but if you know of people that took a recent trip to Quabba Blowhole or around the area of Carnarvon, definitely contact your friends and check that they know about missing girl CLEO SMITH. And if you've been there, if you know anything at all, if you have dash cam, if you have footage on your telephone or a digital camera where you've maybe been making some video recordings, review the information that you have, review your data, review your memories, talk to your family and friends. And if you've got anything at all that you think might be pertinent to help the investigation, call Crime Stoppers, 1-800-333-000, or you could ring 131-444. So this isn't for people to ring in with information that they've gleaned out of the mind and imagination of a psychic or a psychic medium. This is for people who have been in the tangible world in Australia, in Western Australia, on site around the area and around the time that CLEO went missing, which was October 15th, which is a Friday, and Saturday, October 16th. So evening to evening. To give you an idea of visibility out there, sunset at the time would have been around 6:30, and so nightfall, darkness setting in, would have been at around 7 p.m. And in the morning, sunset was probably around 5:10, sunrise, which means that light started to ease up into the day at probably around 20 to 5 in the morning. So just giving visibility with the natural eye. So around Point Quabba, you've got Blowholes Road. It is actually sealed, and, this is such a popular spot and a destination, an important tourist area. The blowholes are spectacular. They're very dangerous, and so is the idea of fishing there. People do die in this area just from the wildness of the ocean. They drown at the blowholes. They go missing when they're fishing. It is a dangerous spot, but it's so beautiful. Wi-Fi has been improved there. There's new towers there. I think they went in 2018. And Western Australia is somewhere where there are satellites zooming around overhead, and some of them will have really brilliant vision. This is probably some of the technology that that ScoMo, our Prime Minister, has been talking about, saying that they're going to be utilising. Some of it will be satellite, and they will probably have some excellent shots from various time segments around the time of CLEO's disappearance. The other thing is, I wanted to tell you, because we know Ellie and Jake, they drove around, and other people say that they were driving around on quad bikes. For example, when the caretaker first learned at 8 a.m. that a little girl was missing from the campsite that he's a warden of, he took his quad bike out. And Blowholes Road, it is sealed, but in the surrounding area there are probably hundreds of kilometres of limestone track. Now these don't head out beyond into the rest of Australia. You have to go to the highways to do that. So you'd go down Blowholes Road and north up the northwestern, I can never remember what it's quite called, the Northern West Highway. That takes you out into the rest of Australia, but before you get to little towns and things, there's a roadhouse, the Minnerley Roadhouse. This roadhouse records every single vehicle passing, so that's going north. Police will have that information. I'm not sure how many they record. I think it was something like 600 vehicles on average a day. So that's a valuable resource. But what we know about the car heard and seen leaving is that it went south from Blowholes Road. And there is CCTV recording from someone's home of a sedan leaving. And going south there, to get anywhere else, you sort of actually have to head back down into the town or near to the edge of Carnarvon. Again, it's on the coast, before you can go back inland to the other communities, farming communities, mining communities, etc., or south, further south. So you can imagine that there will be cameras at gas stations, roadhouses, and we already know domestic, private homes have it as well. So the roads in and out, anybody leaving, and if they can be, tracked down, it's likely that anybody leaving on the highways can be identified. The thing I was going to say about the limestone roads is, not only is Carnarvon, this area, a fishing area, so, not just, recreationally, I mean, but for commercial fishing. There's a farming community there as well, and it's cattle that would range quite free. And the issue that farmers have here is that there's always going to be cattle rustlers, and when it's vast and remote, they're in great danger of losing stock, losing valuable assets. So what people do, and you're probably aware of this, you might have seen this in country areas where you go, but across the tracks, using iron bars, they're kind of like railway sleepers, really. There are these cattle stops, so they're a few meters wide and maybe a meter and a half, a few meters in length, kind of, its width across the road, and then a meter and a half deep, of these iron bars that have gaps in them, and it's a trough underneath. And this prevents cattle from crossing, and it helps contain areas. But what they've done in this Quabba area, well, in the surrounding region, is placed cameras that photograph vehicles crossing the cattle stops. So they have that information as well. So it would be getting vehicles trying to leave or going somewhere on the tracks, maybe, for nefarious reasons, or just people just exploring around. It's going to have recorded, so vehicles in the search of CLEO, if they've gone that far and wide. This would mean that they have recorded, people's quad bikes, what they look like, etc. So there's the opportunity of information from the cattle stops, from all sorts of cameras, north and south, on the only routes out that can get you further than hitting dead ends and things. I mean, however, I guess people could go off-road. From the sky with the satellite imagery. And then, of course, they've got all the other forensics, because we know the advances now with leaving fingerprint and DNA evidence behind, possibly even if wearing gloves, because there's a person called Paolo Magni. They're from Murdoch University, and they're a forensic scientist, and they've spoken up about the fact that it's likely an abductor would have left behind forensic clues, and this is the touch traces. And they say yes, even in instances of wearing gloves, in certain circumstances, it's very possible that there's still DNA. So this is super interesting, because of course the police do have the tent, because much is being made of all the registered sex offenders, and of course not every sex offender is a registered one. But you know, it's interesting because maybe someone that hasn't identified themselves as being there, and is possibly the abductor, maybe they are on record somewhere. So that brings to mind again, you know, how many people were there. There were probably about 60 campsites. So whether there's one person, just a couple of people, or a family of 5 or 6, you know, it means that there is a lot of people. And so far about 100 people have been spoken to by police, and they've, you know, had their statements taken or what have you. Police know that there are persons who still haven't been spoken to. They are either avoiding being talked to by police, they're not coming forward to identify themselves for whatever reason. It could be for just personal reasons, nothing to do with CLEO SMITH, or it could be suspect. But with regards to that, I was thinking about the fact that, you know, in the second interview, you know, with what information the parents are giving about their arrival and how they set up camp, we are told that CCTV, and I think it's on building 28, we're told that CCTV, the audio has activated, you know, or the recording, it's activated maybe because of hearing voices. And we're told that little Cleo's voice has been picked up on the CCTV. But, you know, what's missing from the story is the parents, well, you know, Ellie and her partner, Jake. What's missing is them telling us, well, you know, when we arrived, before it got really dark, we took a quick walk down to the beach. Now, I wonder, you know, because there's no explanation as to how little Cleo's voice is on Shack 28's CCTV audio. And these shacks are generally, they're privately owned, I think, by families in Carnarvon sort of thing. And of course they want to have security there. The shacks have been well and truly, you know, they are where a lot of the search was actually focused in the first 2 or 3 days. But, you know, there's no explanation, because it doesn't look like, I mean, maybe the tent was nearby to a shack, but it doesn't look like it was. And how far away would audio, you know, do these things start recording with motion or audio? Surely not more than sort of 5 meters or something. When you think about doorbell cams, and you see a lot of that these days, it's not like they're recording sound from too far away, right? So it does make me wonder, have police told Ellie and Jake to be very narrow with what they say, to be reserved with what they say, because they don't want people to be able to make up stories or change their story or change where they were, what particular part of the camp or the I don't know. No, I wonder why that's just not part of them telling what they did. And I also wonder about why there's no embellishment in the second telling, you know, any different to the just the 6:30, did it to 8, did it, you know, any embellishment about, you know, doing the dishes, cleaning up, or, you know, or how Chloe liked to stir the pot of food, or how they had to, you know, just set up their provisions or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, because of you know, the CCTV and how Cleo may have been captured on that, and what the family really did when they got there, and all the little events. you know, why wouldn't have anybody said, yeah, no, I saw them when they arrived. They, you know, Jake was setting up tent while Mum, you know, prepared dinner or blah, 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 you know, because there's a whole lot of kerfuffle. You know, they're using air mattresses. They've got to get the tent open. They've got to, you know, make sure they have the necessities unpacked out of the vehicle, which would be their water, the things for the children, nappies, maybe bottles, you know, getting their food, but then the things for toiletry, and then there's, you know, all of these kind of essentials. And to blow up the air mattresses, I don't know, seems that it went smoothly. But, you know, of course, rumours now start circulating that, oh, the one of the site warden helped set up the tent. I mean, or that the caretaker helped set up the tent. You know, all these people trying to cast aspersions on somebody, because of course anybody who was near the family at their site might know the layout, might know where it was decided that little Cleo was going to sleep, where, you know, little Isla was going to sleep. And that is worrisome, of course. But, you know, we know the name of the caretaker. I do know it too, but because I can't remember it, I'm not going to say it. But we know the name of the caretaker. He's spoken out. He's talked about what he did, which is to say that at 8 a.m. when he heard that, you know, he just jumped on his quad bike and he started searching around the campsite. But, you know, oh, yes, sorry, I did write it down here. His name's Brett Kilgallen. Now, he doesn't live in one of these shacks. He is provided a residence, which is, it's on Nalaroo Road. I believe that's sort of further along past Point Quobba, past, you know, the campsite, further north. Okay, I believe. I'll have to look that up. So now what it appears possibly at 7:30 local police in Carnarvon were contacted, and then we know at around 9:30 the one of the people, you know, that do air rescues and do just work around the area, you know, maybe cattle mustering and things like that, they were called and they were happy to go and help. They arrived very quickly because, of course, they're going by air. And then Perth police arriving at around 10:30, and that's very quick to cover 890 kilometres. So I would say there would be some sort of air transport for police coming up, and then some of them also coming up by road and probably arriving later. Because as I've said, you know, Carnarvon and Quobba are right here in the centre, on the coast, in the centre of Australia. And Perth is actually 890 kilometres south. So Perth is a just beautiful town. It's a river city, as is Brisbane and Melbourne. In Brisbane, you've got the Yarra River, and in Brisbane, you've got the Brisbane River. Well, these are our, that's our, you know, white person's name, isn't it? And in Perth, you've got the Swan River, and, you know, it's just a beautiful area, quite famous for the Hobart to Sydney race. There's a place called Fremantle there. It's just absolutely gorgeous, very historic with prisons and things. And you've got south of there lots of historical areas, but, you know, the famous wine country, you know, there's the Margaret River, etc. So yes, and about those shacks too, that I mentioned, yes, the owners of the shacks, they have all been asked to hand in keys so that the shacks can be searched. Was there anything else I just wanted to say today, because I needed to keep this short? I think that was just basically it that I just wanted to sort of download and discuss with you today, you know, is what do you think about the events of that evening arriving, you know, with the very little information that we get from the parents. Maybe they find it too distressing. Maybe they think it's not important. Maybe they've been told they shouldn't be giving out too much information. Maybe this is advice from the police because of the investigation surrounding all the people that were at the campsite, and maybe because of the fact that there's so many people that they haven't spoken to yet. Maybe there's some reason for investigative purposes they can't tell. But I don't know. It does seem curious to me, right? It always seems curious when things like that just seem to be a little bit rote. And I wondered why that is. And so I wondered what you thought about it. If, you know, the idea that it's because of the investigation itself, does that hold any water for you, you know? Because they've arrived right on sunset, they would have had to quickly choose a tent site. Did they already have a good idea of where they would like to choose? Probably so, because they are locals, as they say. And not only locals, born and bred in Carnarvon, at least Ellie is, and I think Jake's lived there most of his life, if not all of it as well. But, you know, because they basically grew up, as we say, at the blowholes as well. I'd say they were up there many, many times during the year, every year, and probably spending months at a time during school holidays at Christmas. So they probably had a good idea of where they wanted to set up camp. And they are experienced campers. I hope, you know, you'd imagine that they have packed things really well. They know what they need to get out to set up, maybe a folding table under the tent gazebo, although I don't know if we can see that in images. But, you know, the little details that you feel like their mind might wander off to, about Chloe, about getting her dressed, and about, you know, not just that she was in those pajamas. See, because it's Ellie's language. I don't want to start going down this road and over-analysing with my untrained mind things that she says, but I don't like that she put her to sleep. I don't know. I don't like it. I put her to sleep. What, with medication? Right? So I put her down, you know, put her to sleep. I mean, you don't want a grizzly child, you know, all out of sorts, all too excited, you know, to be at camp, not wanting to go to sleep, wanting to stay up. Mummy, can we tell stories? I don't know. She just put her to sleep. Did she put on the kerosene lamp? What sort of lighting have they got there? Did they have some sort of generator in their car? Did they charge something using solar panels that they use there now? I mean, I imagine Jake is quite the, you know, one of those men, hopefully, that is quite useful with gear and equipment. And Ellie probably is rather, you know, handy as well. So yeah, I just feel like you want to know. So they use their battery generator for the lighting under the gazebo, and, you know, or did they just use a kerosene lamp, the good old-fashioned kerosene lamp inside the tent? Did they hang it up? She doesn't say, well, we left a night light on for the children, so that Ellie would, you know, CLEO would settle. You know, CLEO had been camping many times in her short time. You know, she's only 4 years old, but she has camped a lot with Mum and Jake. You know, she's used to being in the tent. And I know this feeling so well as a child. But, you know, it's these little details that you expect to be added. Now, if there was a light in the tent, would that put someone off thinking someone is awake all night, or would they be able to use the light to see exactly the position of baby Isla and toddler or young girl CLEO? You know, a story. We gave her an iPad to what, children these days, not all of them, and certainly wouldn't have been my sister's children at that age, but many these days, and it's just a natural thing to do these days, is to maybe have some sort of, even if it's educational, is to have some sort of program or entertainment that children watch on an iPad. Or, I gave her my phone to lie down with and just to watch. Children sometimes like flicking through, watching a little, maybe Dora the Explorer, whatever it is. I don't know what the current things are, but maybe something educational or something by Disney. She loved Frozen. Did she want to watch Frozen? Or, was it peaceful and quiet, And when Ellie and Jake were having dinner, did anybody come up and introduce themselves and say hi? Or are there other people at the campsite that know Jake and Ellie? They've been around their whole lives. Was it only tourists and strangers, or was there someone at the camp that they knew? Were they expecting to see friends there? This is what I expect, I don't know. Maybe just because of the odd weekend that they went, it's not like Labour weekend maybe, or Christmas or whatever. So, but you go camping to places that you return to every year, and you always see people that you at least are acquainted with, and maybe have enjoyed spending time with, or shared a meal with. You've caught some fish, they bring over some wine, and you sit around together and you chat and you laugh and you tell lewd jokes or whatever it is, right? Or you, in the summer season, you sit around and you watch, someone's got a TV and you watch the test match cricket, and all the children from the different campsites get together and have their dinner together, etc., and there's a certain routine and rhythm. And maybe on the first night, you're just wanting to get on with it. Maybe there weren't many people there on the Friday. Maybe more people turned up on Saturday. We know a lot of people left on Saturday, okay? People did leave that had been there the Friday, and they've left on the Saturday. So this all needs to be chased up. But do you understand what I'm saying? I am talking as a seasoned camper, right? And even if people want to keep themselves to themselves, there's some sort of acknowledgement, catching of an eye. I know it was sunset and then dark, but there are people at their campsites, they've got light on at that time at 7 p.m. in the evening, at least for, 2, 3, 4 hours, maybe even longer, but at least for a couple of hours, right? And then everyone's usually pretty tired and they go to sleep by 9 o'clock or whatever. But there's the lights on, there's hustle bustle, there is movement, there's the settling in. People are doing dishes, preparing food, putting things away, getting things out, listening to the radio, discussing what they're going to do the next day, wandering to go somewhere to where they might have a latrine, all sorts of things, especially around, even at 7 p.m. It is late for dinner time often, at a camp maybe, but so maybe everybody that the police have talked to, they've told them don't say anything in particular, don't talk about any interaction or whatever you had, because maybe they feel like this is important to being able to trap. someone that is, you know, a guilty party, right? I don't know. But I think it's a bit weird. Oh, yeah, so we saw they drove past us at 6. We're further right up at the point. Well, they drove in about quarter past 6, yes. I remember seeing them arrive because, you know, they crunched right past us on, you know, they turned in. I don't know. 60 campsites. You were aware of people arriving. You're aware of people packing up and leaving. Often people will just wave. People sometimes ask, hey, how are you? Do you need any help? Yeah, see you in the morning. Whatever, I don't know. Or they just do a little shy, hey. You know, people like to keep to themselves too. Right, so that's enough. That's 30 minutes of me. But again, look, you know, so if you were someone that was around there, but not even if you were, but if you know of people that were traveling there, right, you know, make sure, because so many people go there, I think it's important that if you know of someone that is traveling in the area, maybe you're from overseas and you've got a niece or a nephew or a daughter that's been travelling through that area of Western Australia, just make sure they're aware that there is a missing girl, and get them to check all their data. Because we've seen what happened with Red, White and Bethune, who were basically they were basically the source of intelligence that found Gabby Petito. So it could be crowdsourced data, you know, civilian-sourced information, whatever you want to make up these things for. So it could be that type of information that finds CLEO SMITH. Yeah. All right, well, I'll see you in the comments, and I'll speak to you again soon about this. Thanks.